Hi, I guess. So apparently we ended up with almost the opening talk after the keynote in the biggest room. This was meant to be a light break from all the talks, maybe at the end of the day. Now we have the opening talk, okay? So no pressure. We've counted the number of seats while waiting here. It's 500, so we have 500 people in front of us. No pressure. What we're going to do is we've got our 100 Untitled 4 tips and tricks. This is by the European evangelism team. So this is not just about the tips. It's also a way for us to introduce ourselves. I'll get back to that in a few minutes. But to introduce us as the new evangelism team for the Unreal Engine in Europe. In any case, it's 100 Untitled 4 tips and tricks. The idea here is to give you a couple of dozens fairly random, mostly art and content-focused tips and tricks. Some of them are 100% useless, okay? But they'll be fun, I hope. Some of them are really good things you can do as a prank while your colleague is out for lunch. Probably shouldn't check it in, but you could. Other things, though, are really useful. Some of them are, I think, personally fairly straightforward and simple, but other stuff is stuff that I didn't know either. In fact, we were rehearsing this last night until very late, which is not a fun part, because we needed everyone to be on location together as a group to properly rehearse. So we did a proper rehearsal run last night, and while rehearsing it, we had several cases of one of us saying, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that." Okay? So even we learn from it. And so as you might notice, this will be a completely different setup than the keynote or many of the other talks. This is really lighthearted. This is informal. This is meant to be fun. We might make a mistake. Go with the flow. It's meant, have an easy way into the next 2 days of pretty hardcore learning and technical details. Okay? So that's what you've got to expect here. Good? Anyhow, it's not actually 100 tips. It's actually 69. Okay? So... And actually, we had a really, really long title first. Like, the entire slide was the title. And then we had a next slide with a really long abbreviation. So that was the mood. But because we became talk number 1 after the keynote, we thought maybe it should be a little bit more formal. And also, you might not be able to read it, but here it says there's cats. So there are actually cats in the slides. Okay? A few. Good. Good. But to get back to the evangelism team, so I've been doing evangelism for the Unreal Engine for the past 4 or 5 years-ish. Across Europe. Many of you might have seen me at different events. I might have visited your studio over the last few years. We've grown the team now. So we've gone from just me covering the continent, which is a little bit tricky, to a team. So we actually have the full team here. So myself, I'm Sjoerd de Jong. Again, you might have seen me before. I am leading the team now, and I'm still handling Northern Europe as well. And then we've got Andreas.
Hi, my name is Andreas. I'm in the industry since 20 years, mainly making games in a more creative game design, level design role. So I was with Ubisoft several years. I shipped my last game, my last commercial game with Unreal. It was A Long Journey Home. And I covering Western Europe. Who's next?
Hi, I'm Krzysztof. My main focus is programming. It's like anything from tools, art, tools, graphics, also shaders, optimizations. I'm based in Warsaw, Poland, and I'm responsible for for Eastern Europe. If you're from, and also Israel. Don't forget Israel. Hey, all Polacks from Israel. If you're from the region, hit me with anything. I'm your man.
Hi, I'm Mario. I'm responsible for South Europe. And I've been gameplay programmer for quite a while, and also from time to time, technical artist.
Hi, I'm Joseph. So I'm responsible for the Middle East, North Africa, and Turkey. And I'm trying to grow the game dev scene there, basically. And I'm based in Beirut, Lebanon. And I used to work as a technical designer. So it was mostly technical than a designer. But yeah.
Did you also do design? And technical? Sorry.
Okay, good. Cat. Yeah? Good? Good. I hope this will get you into the mood for Unreal Fest. Anyway, let's get started. This is tip number 1. It's pasted here. It's a really simple thing, but I don't think anyone is aware of the shortcut and the implication of being able to set the shortcut. Okay, so here's a very, very basic test level. We're going to do some random stuff here. But what I can do, for example, I have a cube. Amazing, right? I can go to the editor preferences and I can do the paste here shortcut, because paste here is just in the right click menu, right? You can do paste here. It's a little bit annoying. There's no shortcut for it assigned by default. But if we look for paste here, make sure I can type. It says paste here. I'm going to bind it to this, and it says, yeah, it's already overridden. Please, let's ignore that. Totally do that. Let's close that. And as I copy the cube, I just done Control C. If I now press the key, so it's backslash what I did, press backslash, where I click, I can now get it. So in fact, every time I press backslash, where I have clicked, I get it. So I click somewhere, I press backslash, click, backslash, click, backslash. Shit, I probably should have undone that, because the next people have to continue with this. But so you can use this to very quickly move things. So for example, if you have to move this thing to the other side of the level, instead of doing this, right, that's a little bit annoying. You could just cut it, go to the other side of the level, maybe even with camera shortcuts, click somewhere there, and you got it exactly where you've clicked. You can also quickly build a tower if you feel like building towers, okay? Because it keeps going. So I think it's a very simple little thing that's fun to do and helps with level building workflow. Good. And the way this is going to work, by the way, each of us have about 4 or 5 tips, we switch. 4 or 5 tips, we switch. That's rough setup, okay? Pixel depth offset in a material editor. It's not really a tip, I mean, it's a feature, but it's one that I've basically never used it in production. So just want to highlight what it does. Pixel depth offset, we've got that over here for these cobbles. If you look in the material, you can see we're using the pixel depth offset input. That's basically just an alpha map that comes from here. That's multiplied by 1, so it's active. So as you now move this down, you can see it actually offsets some of the pixels. So the alpha map identifies which pixels to offset, and those pixels, well, as it implies, they're offset into the depth. So they will appear to be rendering behind some other pixel in the background that now comes to the front. In other words, the floor appears to be rendering above some of the deeper parts of the material here, but this is really just a plane. You see, it's literally just a plane, so it's completely fake. You can see it's even floating above the ground. You can use this for stuff like this with the parallax effects on the pebbles. The trees in a distance, for example, you got a plane with a bunch of trees. Instead of just having trees that are obviously just on a flat plane cutting into the ground, you can make it look as if some of the trees are a little bit in the distance. You can do it for hair strands on a face, that kind of stuff. So it's not commonly used, but it's a nice little thing as well. V for vertex snap. I think it's the same as in Maya. I forgot Maya after all these decades, but I think it's the same shortcut as Maya. So let's take these 2 cubes we have over here that we placed before. If you move something and you press and hold V, you can see already, and this might be a little hard to see because the vertices are quite small. Let me get this close to the other cube. You see, it snaps. You can see the small blue points appearing. Those are the vertices, so you can actually do vertex snapping. The downside to that is that it pretty much only works on the pivot point. So my next slide, which is slide number 4, tip number 4, is you can temporarily move the pivot points very quickly with Alt middle mouse button. Right. And I think this mouse, by the way, doesn't like middle mouse button, which I've noticed before, which is a bit of an issue. That's an interesting one. Hold on. No, I don't know what we've done with this computer. See, that's the first problem. What could possibly go wrong, right? If you have a normal computer and you press Alt middle mouse button, you can basically just click and drag the pivot point and then use it in conjunction with vertex snapping could allow you to control that a little bit better. I'll hand over to Christoph.
Hi. So you can set custom categories for your project dialog in your editor. So if you launch your editor, you can have it like this project under Unreal Fest, for example. To do it, you just simply modify your project file and set anything to the category field. That's it. Doesn't work for Launcher, unfortunately. You can use advanced search in the content browser. There's a whole doc that describes how it works. But, for example, let's say I want to have control over all of the meshes that have vertex count lower than 100. So I type vertices less than 100, and I have all the meshes. But I can also say, but I also want to see things like all the sounds. So I put type sound, and I have like all the meshes or sounds in one screen. You can also later save this search as a collection. So for example, local collection, and like this is like weird stuff.
You haven't shown that yesterday. I didn't know that.
So, I'm sorry. And the next tip is about sharing collections. You can share the collection. Okay, so like you can all have some setup for the whole team. And there are 2 types of collections, of shared collections. One is shared and the other is private. The private is just visible for you, but it's also on the repository.
Can you quickly copy-paste the search string into Notepad or something with a bigger font?
Just to view it, this is the search string. Yeah, let's override your project file. Like all the binary operations work basically on that, and the things I was typing, like this type, you can see it. Type is to the right. This is sound. Anything that has sound, and vertices are also listed here. So you can use anything from this list. Okay, you can use the inputs as a calculator. So for example, I want to scale this cube times 2. So we can just multiply by 2. But you can also, I don't know, put it to the power 4. So now we're inside, right? So just using simple operators, you can make it worse. I mean, I just deleted this guy. Or did I? No. Yeah, let's just scale it down. Whatever. Bang. And even less. Yeah. Okay, you can also filter output log. So, if you have your output log, bang, you can, of course, you can search, right? Like just write some test thing, whatever, here. But you can also use the categories, which is important if you have your custom categories and you want to like just view anything that is related to blueprints or to your specific category. So now we have only things in blueprint log. Just revert it. And Mario.
So, tip number 10, you can color code your folders. So, well, it's already done here, but it's very easy to set color to the folder so you can make it prettier or easier to find. So, for example, you can have your own coding, so all green folders should be handled by artists and things like that. Next tip, tip 11, you can modify thumbnails in the content browser. This is going to be a bit tricky. I'm going to clean my search, and I'm going to filter static meshes. So, for example, let's say I don't like this thumbnail. I'm going to enlarge it so you can see it better. Like this one. I can turn into edit mode and, for example, zoom in and rotate. And OK, now I'm happy with it, done editing, and that's all. So you can edit any thumbnail that you have. Tip number 12, you can change view easily from using control and middle mouse and dragging mouse. Middle mouse does work?
Try again.
OK. No, it doesn't.
Maybe it's not under scroll. Maybe it's somewhere on different.
It's a strange gaming mouse with 50 million
like
buttons.
A lot of buttons. OK. Let's try this one. No. This one.
Trust
no.
us, if you have a normal mouse and you click the wheel, you will get a line that appears in the viewport. So you can very quickly just hold Alt, drag, you see a line, and the direction that you drag in is basically a shortcut for switching to side view, front view, top, etc. So it's very quickly drag, 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 drag.
Yes.
It's kind of like Maya as well, where you drag the line.
What happened? So, for example, if you drag to the app, it will change to the top view. Next tip, it's also with the middle mouse button. So you can measure distance in orthographic view. If you come to top, for example, and you want to know how much this, what is the size of this square, you can middle and drag, and it will show you the distance, like you can see here.
You'll see a line with a number above it.
Yes.
Just picture it.
And the cat. And I will hand over to Joseph.
Okay, so tip number 14, you can actually have up to 4 detail panel. So why is this useful? Well, let's just see an example. And So basically, you selected this asset, like the chair over here, and you want to check out the material of this asset in the scene. So I can double-click, and it's open right here. And the thing is, if I click on Browse, it's going to deselect the chair. So simply, I can just lock it, and now when I hit Browse, it's just going to open another content browser. And you can have up to 4, so you just have to go to Window and go to content browsers here and have a third one. And sometimes it's useful if you want to like work on the scene and you have different folders, different assets. Anyway, I'm just going to close them now and reset. Great. Whoa. Yes. Nope. Okay, tip number 15. You can also have up to 4 detail panels. So this is mostly useful if you want to compare 2 assets. So let's just go back to this cube. And I'm just going to lock it. And now I'm just going to open a second one. Going to detail panel, enable second one, and I'm going to put it next to this one so I can have a small comparison. Great. Nope. OK. So if I copy this asset next to it, it can have like a different location, different scale. You can simply see the 2 location over here. You can copy it, which is basically the next step, actually. Tip number 16. You can copy any property. So basically, I can copy the mesh. So this cube, I want it to be actually this plane. Here we go. Copy. And then I can replace it over here by hitting paste. I'm going to undo. And it's not just properties here, but even like variables that can be copied. So now, how is data copied? So tip 17, everything in the engine is actually copied as text. So even this property, the location that I just copied, if I open the notepad, it is actually just simple text. And that way, you can actually have history of your clipboard. So I can later just copy this again and use it later. I can do the same for objects as well. So if I copy this cube, I can also insert it here. Great. Also, so what if I want to edit multiple objects at the same time? A simple way would be to actually use the property matrix. So I'm just going to select multiple static meshes, right-click, go to Asset Actions, and then bulk edit via property matrix. And I want to disable the collision. So I can look for collision, and now see the pin over here? If I pin it, I can actually see the value for each asset, and I can change it also. And now I just disabled collision for multiple assets. Here we go. Great.
So actually our biggest fear in making this presentation was the project is getting messier and messier. And if someone, or that's the reason why we are sitting there and a bit nervous, if someone doesn't unlock something or doesn't get rid of his search, then, oh, this mouse is really... Wow. Oh, you know, you can fix it and unfix it here. That's cool. Okay. So what we actually use in our last project, I get rid of this, you can have a color picker and you can call with, where is it? Set color. So when you set the color, you can save those colors. So I can make something like a good list of colors I want to use. And saying, for example, if we did this for our interface, so we had 4 colors that were used in the interface, and we shared that. And you can even have different themes. So I can name this theme and say, this is my super cool. Oh, this keyboard is also not mine. This is just super cool. I don't type more on this. Okay, so you have those, which is quite nice. Next, tip number 20, you can drag and drop to reorder arrays. So now I have to find my strange cube. Where is it? Here. So when I have arrays in the thing, then I can just move them around. I can just drag them and move them up like this. So I can reorder arrays, which can be really, really helpful, especially when you started making your game, and then the arrays are growing, and then you have to reorder them or whatever. So there's, and you can do this with every array in the game and the editor. One thing that is also really helpful is search in all blueprints. So if I open up this blueprint here, you can Control-Shift-F, and then you can search in all blueprints. Like, for example, you always wanted to know where begin. Oh, this is not a German keyboard. They're always making fun of me. Wait. So any idea why this is not working? Yeah, I know that this is... Okay, normally stuff should show up here now.
That's what you have when you... I mean, the first thing I did when I got into Unreal is I bought a keyboard. That's a QWERTY American keyboard.
So I think we go to the next tip, because normally it should show up, and I have no idea why it's not. We use this extensively, so I know it's working. It should. So tip 22, you can grab blueprint connections control. So what you can do actually is, if you wire stuff up like this here and you want to change it, you can just hold control while reconnecting instead of like breaking it completely. And instead of doing right click and break, you can use Alt, and then you can really fast rewire things like that. So. Okay, and tip 23, you can also drag wires to input nodes. So for example, when I have this string and I want to have it in input node, I can put it here and it directly adds it to an input or an output node. Okay, and then we have Stuart again.
Let me just really quickly try the blueprint search.
It's strange.
Just want to try that. Yes. That was not scripted. This is all
that is
random. Okay.
That's why he is lead.
Okay. Well, I can type. I can use keyboards. So anyway, and you also have to press enter. I think you might not have pressed enter. I don't know. Anyway, it's nice to do a full search in everything across blueprints very easily. You know, the middle mouse button as well. You want to see the really cool thing? I'm trying to press the middle mouse button on the tab to close the window. Look at what happens here. It's actually typing 333 when I press the middle mouse button. Okay? Good. Good. Very good. So, if you're more technically inclined, you might have already...
Maybe you can rebind 3. You can rebind 3 to middle mouse button
Okay,
actions.
we can do that.
So this is a good tip. Tip 24.1.
If you're more technically inclined, you probably already know this one, but there's an engine association in the project file, right? Because it says here this. And now by default, it would say simply 422 or whatever version you're using, and that's it, which means it uses 422. But if you have a custom engine build, that doesn't help you because you're not using normal 422. So what you can do then is you can have that replaced with the unique ID of that engine install, which is that whole string there, which resides in the registry in Software, Epic Games, Unreal Engine builds. You can see that one, which is different from that, I'm aware, it's this example. But that thing there is bound to this install. So you can, that's for example what we do at Fortnite to ensure that if you click the Fortnite project, it takes the exact right version of the engine, the one that it's bound to. Okay. So that's a fun little one as well. 25. And here we're getting more and more into some of the weirder stuff or the stuff I didn't know. I did not know this until last week, and then I was looking for tips, and I started typing random stuff in the console in the editor, and I figured out, cool, there's grids. So I learned something. So there's different grids. New level grid once. If you go to the editor, and you type, there's 3 different grids, new level grid that. This might be hard for you to read, but r.editor.new level grid. If you do 1, 2 is default, so if you switch to 1, you get this big red grid. I'm not sure why you would want to have it, but I assume at some point you might want to have it. For my previous game, we had that Z0, so where the grid is, that's the water level, that's the sea level. So having a strong red grid there might have helped. Grid 0 is this. I don't know what you want to do with that. And 2 is the default, which is not visible from this distance. Okay. But not only that, so tip 26, the grids are actually just materials, so you could modify the material. In this case, I did something rather strange by having this weird green smiley thing there, or whatever it is. But you could do that. In fact, you could take that rather stupid example and do it more serious by taking the floor plan of your level, for example, and temporarily putting the floor plan of your level on the grid. And now you know where you have drawn the walls, etc. You do this by going into the engine files, so I'm not going to save this, I hope. Level grid material 2. Make sure I remember that. Engine's not enabled here, so engine content somewhere. Engine content. Level grid. Level grid material 2. Oh, sorry, yes, sorry. That's what happens when people don't unclear their filters, right? Anyhow, it's just a material. You modify this, you modify the grid, and this thing here is just a scale. So you respect this number, you can even make it respect the scale of the grid as well. And that's it. Good. 27, tone mapper sharpen. I think a lot of people might have tried this already. I think it's a very fun one. I always set this in a project, even if it's just on 0.25 intensity or so. But what it does is it, as it implies, it sharpens the screen, right? So tone mapper sharpen. And I'm going to overdo it, factor 10. You can see you get this. It gets very, very sharp. You can probably even do it even more. Or no, that's the maximum. But this is really, really nice if you do it on a little amount, like 0.25 or so. You get a little bit of sharpening. It also works if you downscale the resolution and then you use sharpening to recompensate for that. So it runs a little bit better. It's lower resolution, but it doesn't look as blurry as it normally would have. Okay, so that's another thing you can do there. Good. There's also a thing that I also wasn't aware of until about 2 weeks ago when we were preparing this. There's something called a spline mesh actor. I knew there were splines in the editor. You can make a blueprint with a spline in there and then attach something to it, you know, and then have it revolve that or whatever. But there's an actual actor called a spline mesh actor. So if you just look here, there's a spline mesh actor, which is that thing over here we've placed already. That gives you immediately, without components, an entry to enter the mesh. So here's a cube, and it gives you a spline, and then you can basically skew that thing or otherwise transform it. I did not know that. So apparently you can do that, and it seems to respect the collision as well, so it seems to work pretty decently. Good. Cat. Okay, next person, I think.
You can quickly find things with Control B. Oh yes, thank you. I'm gonna show you 2 more tips, I guess. If it works, it works. Okay, so maybe quickly, yay. Control mid, okay, so let's go back for a second. Control middle mouse button, you put it to the top, and it's top view. Put it down, it's a bottom view, left, right. You can go back to the perspective by just doing it across the screen. And one more, if we are in the top view, or whichever orthographic view, you can just press the mouse button, like middle mouse button, and then measure some distances. Yep. Let's maybe go back, clear the search. Yes. Okay, again, Control B. So you can do it from anywhere. For example, like you are in this blueprint, you want to do something with the file, but you have no idea like where it is, and you don't really want to search through someone else's like, I don't know, folder hierarchy. You just Control B, and you have it already, so I can now rename it, whatever. I can do the same with the material. So I just lost the search. Oh yeah, I can check that it's in engine content. I don't want to modify it. Like whatever I want to do, I can quickly do it. The funny thing with property matrix editor, if you hit Control B in it, it will select all the assets that are selected in this editor. This is important, not well known, surprisingly, but Control P, you can just search for something. I'll search for main, and I found main material.
That was a joke we had last night, where we had no idea what to type, so we typed main, we get that, and that seems to exist and look quite nice.
Yeah, and you can do it from wherever you are. So you're looking for your player character. We have some players, but not the player character. Yeah, you can just open it with Enter. But also, funny thing, you can just let's go back to the top and like Control P. If I search for something, I can also move it to some other place, copy it, or open. You can use translucent materials for post-processing effects, like for localized post-processing effects, because they have access to the gbuffer. And for example, like we can see this nice post-process effect here. Like if I come in, then like nothing is being processed. But here, everything that is behind the sphere will be visible just with AO, just because you can see even those things. Just because we used scene texture ambient occlusion. You can change it to some other things as well. Not post-process input, but everything that is in gbuffer is accessible. You can change the title bar color and for some different purposes. You can make it look nicer, or you can distinguish engine builds using that. And you go to editor preferences. The very first window here, like the very first option here is like appearance, and this is what is interesting for us. We just change the tint, and we have it red, or blue, or green, or back to the normal. Wait, yes.
I personally use that one a lot because sometimes I have different versions of the same project open or different builds or whatever. And it gets really, really confusing with all the windows to remember which one am I actually working on, which one should I definitely not touch. Okay, so you can recolor.
And just for lols, you can do more. You can set it for like a custom material. So we have this material here.
So this is part of the category, what do you do with your colleagues when they're out for lunch?
You can also set your child windows to be the other material. And child windows are everything that is not that is not the main window. It's hard to undock it, but I will eventually. Yeah. Yeah, and a funny thing again, when I don't move my mouse or have a viewport in my view, it's not moving. But now I move my mouse, it's animating. If I have a viewport, I don't need to move my mouse, just because the slate is updating or not. Okay, let's clear this quickly. Or maybe leave it? No. Mario.
So tip number 34. Using the end key, we can drop objects. So for example, if I go to this cube again, and I say, it's here, and I want it to drop to the floor, just press end, and it will do that like that. It will consider collision and pivot. Tip number 35. This will shed some light into the shades of our knowledge. Just press L and click, and it will create a light for us in the editor.
If you want some history.
Yes, please.
Because I like to add a history to it. In Unreal Engine 1, in Unreal Editor 1, the interface wasn't that well developed, so there was no easy way of adding light. So this was the shortcut for adding light in Unreal Editor 1, and it still survives until today.
Yeah. So tip 36. We can drag and drop a level from the content browser to the levels tab, so it will be streaming. So window levels, no, sorry, window levels. Let's put it like here. And if we, am I allowed to use this map?
This map, yes.
Okay. But you already have it, so delete it.
Yes. Okay, so if I delete it, imagine this never happened. So if I drag and drop, we will be streamed, and it will be the current new level. And tip number 37 is that we can drag from the level reference to a level blueprint. So for example, if we have we're on the level blueprint and we are here and we want a reference to this map, we just drag and drop and we will have it in the blueprint. And this also extends to any actor. So this is the tip number 38. If we select an actor from the world outliner and we want to have a reference to it, just drag and drop. So I think that's the signal.
Okay, so tip number 39. You can keep the simulation change and let you simulate physics, etc., then bake the changes. So I think I should hit escape. X. Okay, 1 second. I'm just going to reopen the presentation. Great. Anyway, so basically, if you want to drop items in the scene, but you want to create this random variation, for example, like here, you can manually just drag every box and rotate it and make sure it doesn't hit the ground, or you can just simulate physics. So I'm just going to select those objects here. 1 second. Now that I have the object selected, you just have to enable simulate physics here, and when I hit simulate, okay. And then when you hit the K key, and I hit stop, you just saved the result of that simulation, and now you have the objects inside of the scene.
So if you press K without the noise running, it saves the physics state, and it saves the actual mesh position. And then you can turn off the physics on those meshes again.
Right.
And only to be sure, you don't need sound for it, okay? It works without sound.
Yes, also we actually practice this presentation without sound, so maybe a good idea would be to turn it off. Great. So, tip number 40. Well, this is a nice view of the rocks, so I want to save it, and I can just hit Ctrl-1. And usually in RPG games, for example, you have fixed views from different angles, so maybe you want a top view as well, so you can go here and hit Ctrl-2. And what I just saved was, I saved them as a bookmark for the location. Now if I hit 1 and 2 on the keyboard, I have saved views, basically. And you can access them from the menu as well.
This is actually a funny one. I didn't know that it was in, but I was using it. Because I come from RTS background, so I was so used to group stuff, so it was really funny to see it was working out of the box.
Okay, so tip number 41. You can actually change the speed. So if I want to go to that terrain, and I went there, it's really fast, but what if I want to like slow down as I move down, as I get close to it? I can actually scroll the mouse at the same time, and I'm moving slower, and then moving faster, instead of actually manually just going here to this menu and changing the speed on the slider. So, tip number 42. You can actually temporarily change the field of view. And to do that, all you have to do is hold the right mouse button and the C or the Z key. So this is basically a tip that I never used on purpose. So basically, if you hit the C, you're zooming in. And you can actually, for example, this is more useful in a game if you want to take a screenshot where you want to show more objects on the scene. So you can zoom out, and when you let go of the right mouse, you're back to the original position, basically.
So I always use this. Every screenshot that you've seen from me is me pressing numpad 1 or 3, which is alternative buttons, to have a slightly larger field of view, to have a slightly more majestic picture.
Yeah, and also if you're ever moving in the viewport and suddenly it does this, well, you know which key you accidentally hit. Great. Great. Now you can set up user-defined grid and snapping option. This is tip number 43. So if you go to the edit and the editor preference, I'm just going to look for grid size. And now you have access to all the grid units you have for rotation and scale and movement. So usually it snaps between 1 to 1000. Maybe you want to have a different type of value like 256. So you can see here now, it dynamically added 256. And if I move an object, it's snapping 256 units at a time. Also, I'm going to undo this. Great.
Wait, the snapping is 0 now.
What? Okay. Okay. So now for Andreas.
Okay, before I do this, I go here and set the snapping to something meaningful instead of 0. Yeah, that was really funny. Yesterday evening it gets worse and worse. So we have 60 tips and now we are in the area and we are pretty clean right now. We are really, really good. So we are cleaning up. Yesterday it was a mess. Okay, who of you is older than 35? Come on, I want to see. So you see, we are getting older, and for that reason, there's a really nice thing. We use it actually for presentation. You can zoom in here, and when you hold control, you can go. So it's important, you know. Okay, but it's really helpful for presentation, for example, or sometimes I don't know, you really want to see the bug.
He's the senior one in the team.
Wow, thanks. So tip 45. Oh, actually, we should have made that 43. It would have been my age. I could have made another joke about that. Okay, 45. Convert and get validate getter. That was actually the reason yesterday because everybody laughed. I didn't know that, to be honest. So we have this, and normally what you do is like is validate, and then you do this, and then you continue working with that. But what you actually can do is you can make a right click and then convert to a validate get, and then you directly have that. That was the moment where I said, "Oh, wow, that would have saved me some spaghetti code." So this is good. Okay, so we are at 46. So there are some shortcuts in the blueprints you can use. Like for example, with B, you can make a branch, which is kind of nice. But what you also can do is you can go in the settings in the file and you can define your own nodes of the stuff you're maybe using most. So for example, we did a quest system and we had a lot of stuff that we were losing a lot in the quest system. So we could define that there. That's really nice. So we are up to 47. You can promote variables to easy, very easy, like you can select that and then you hit promote and then don't touch anything. That's what I always do wrong because it's directly highlighted and you can change it to a meaningful name. Yeah, and that you can write that wrong and then it's even more funny. So I get rid of that. And when you have, for example, a local function, only to say that, to show that, let's do this again. You can even say if you want to have it a local variable. So just to know that. And then 48, the really weird stuff is Stuart again.
Okay, I love this one. It's again this thing you can do to your colleague, or what you could do is you can make a random blueprint somewhere in the project. Every 1,000 jump, every 1,000 jump, you execute this command. It switches the editor to wireframe mode. No one will have a clue why. Okay? So, and the batching one is fun too. So if, for example, slate show wireframe in the engine, also I think this is really good for a job test, but people don't seem to appreciate me saying that. I don't know really why. Yeah, wireframe, let me just type wireframe, it's easier to look for. Slate show wireframe 1, hell yeah. That should be a job test. You can build a game like that, you're good, okay? The other one, and now you have to make sure you know what you're typing because you have no idea what you're doing anymore. The other one is show batching, I think, which is also a very fun one because it does that. It even changes the color depending on what you're highlighting because it's a different batching. It's really, really good. Now, again, you have to make sure you know what you're typing to get it back to 0, okay? Good. This is completely useless, but I'm just saying it could be fun. So that was 48. 49, which is actually very useful. It's a very visual thing. You can do hard blending on landscapes between the layers we've got over here. So instead of having this soft kind of blend, you can see it's a little bit soft there, but you can make it respect an alpha texture in there to do this kind of blending. Essentially, it's done the normal way. You paint it the normal way. It's kind of sensitive with the tool strength, so experiment with a relatively low strength that you paint with. But other than that, it's a simple material setting is all that you're using this for. So in here, you can see in the layer blends, there is a setting here called blend type. We've set that to hide blends, and then that's basically it, because then it will blend using that. Got that. Let's see what else we have. We got 50. I saw this float by on Twitter, I think, about a year and a half ago, and then I completely forgot about it, and then I remembered, and then I couldn't find the tweet back, and then I improvised. So I assumed that this is what I saw on Twitter, or it's me improvising. Either way, it ended up being cool, so we used it. Okay. You can make simple spiral animations, and we got a few more nice material animation ones coming in later. But for example, this one over here is done like that. Just fun to look at these animated effects, I think. So what we did over here, it's a very simple setup. It's essentially just this, right? You got a rotator, but it's this lerp thing, and the sphere method essentially just blends between non-rotating, rotating, and you just fade the two over, and that's it. It's a simple effect, but it looks cool. 51, you got custom UVs, which has been in the engine for I think a year and a half or something like that. It's an optimization feature. It's not that super commonly known, so I just wanted to place a little bit of emphasis on what it actually is and how it could be helpful. So in this material over here, you can see we're using customized UVs. There is a single customized UVs input here because in the properties on the left, we've set there should be one input. So if I type 2 inputs here, I get another one, right? So that's how it extends. What you're doing basically is instead of placing the panner or whatever UV modification operation you want to do, instead of putting it here on the UVs, you put it to the customized UVs, and you kind of convert this into the vertex shader. So this work is now handled by the vertex shader, and you're kind of offloading the cost from the pixel shader. So it's a way of distributing cost away from the pixel shader. There's also a vertex interpolator, which is part of this as well. It converts it as well. And 52 is related to this, because that little setup we've got in that material with a panner plus noise, I didn't know this either, started experimenting with it, got really strange hypnotic effects, and was really excited about that, okay? So apparently, which I never realized, you can do panner, add noise, And it only works if the panner has a speed set, which in this example is not. I'll switch to the other one in a second. Speed Y has to not be 0. And if you've got that, you get really weird stuff. So, for example, you get that. And this is very symmetrical. I mean, it's very round. You can make it more noisy, more natural looking as well. You simply change the settings of the noise, the levels, or the type of noise, and you get strange effects. I was going to do a joke about hypnotizing everyone and then saying something politically incorrect, but maybe I should not. But anyway, I think it's really nice to make slime, for example. That's one of the serious effects we had. Some kind of slimy, bubbly thing where it kind of like bulges out and stuff like that. Fire explosions where it's kind of also like it's growing continuously. All of that seems very doable with this. And also, just want to highlight this one too. This is a serious one. BC7 compression, not perhaps that well known. By default in the engine, you can see the left image. Might be hard to see in the projector, but the left image is uncompressed, so it's a gradient uncompressed. It's 192 kilobyte. Obviously looks smooth, it's uncompressed. The middle one is 32 kilobyte. It's standard BC1 or direct DXCC compression, DXCC1 compression. It's very noisy. Again, it might be hard to see for you, but it's really bad quality. This, however, is BC7, which is 64 kilobytes. So it's twice the size, but still a lot less than original, and it's pretty much 100% lossless. In order to enable that, you would have to go to the project settings and disable shader model 4. And if you've done that, then in any texture you've got, you can then enable compression BC7. Okay, so, cat.
Okay, so this is also not that well known, but you can actually very quickly optimize your particles in terms of overdraw. So like eliminate as much overdraw as possible by using particle cutouts. So we have this kind of simple setup here. Compiling shaders. Okay, so we have this, and now I can show wireframe. And you can see that there are those cutouts. But in general, normally you would not have this set. So it will be just a cube, and you have a lot of free space in this texture, on this plane, and this results in overdraw. So if I put the same texture that I'm using for the particle as a cutout texture, it will use this alpha to try to find the closest shape with only 8 vertices. You can also set it to 4, but then it's a bit less. Like you need to balance it. Like what if you prefer to have less vertices or less pixels being overdrawn. Material platform stats. So you probably know the stats. Yeah, let's do it here. Whatever. You probably know the stats window that is shown by default. I'm sorry, I cannot just. Got it. You probably know the stats window, and it shows you only for the current configuration. I mean the stats, but there are a lot more detailed. There is a lot more detailed window with way nicer like sum up of your stats, and you can change as well like platform or the quality level. And you will see after it's compiled, like how many instructions will there be, and if all the platforms actually compile. And if they don't, you get a pretty detailed error message, which is even nicer than whatever you will see without that. And you can easily figure out what is wrong with your material. In this case, I tend to have it open all the time. Interior mapping. This is actually like I wouldn't try it myself. If I would try it myself earlier if I knew how easy it was, but I was quite afraid. So you just pick a texture, a cube map, and put it to this, and put this one node in your material, and you have this kind of setup. And you can also randomize the input. So it's like just simulating interior with the cube map. I'm gonna open this, but I just need to select it first. Yes. Good party. We just use this interior cube map thing. You can put a static bool that will say to randomize it or not. You can just skip it, and you just put any cube map you want. You can change it to some exterior as well. It will work, but look differently. And this is it. This is all. And you have this kind of thing. And it also works for different shapes. And I think it's super nice and super easy to set up. one of my favorites. You can use plot function on graph material node to visualize some stuff. For example, functions on graph. And it looks like this. I'll just open the material because the setup is not obvious. So you get two outputs. One is y, and the other is x. And you want to have this x go as your input to the function. And this is just some simple fogging function. I'll just show you on the graph. So it just decays in time, trying to reach 0, but never reaches it. You can also see the gradient of the value here. So like you get a pretty nice overview of your function. And you can just test it before you use it in your shader, just to debug it or to check if you are doing it right. You can also set the range of the grid. So I'm using like from -5 to 5, -5 to 5, just with one vector. And you have some other options as well. And you can also debug your materials by using debug scalar values, debug or other variants like debug vector2 values, and just have them displayed as a text, as a number. So we have this simple setup here that uses, where is it? I guess it's here. It uses some center point of screen to see the distance to it. So if I'm looking at this, we can see that I'm pretty close, and I can see that like what the values are, what the value ranges are, what should I like compensate for example, just with this simple node, and the setup is very simple.
It's basically print string for materials.
Yeah. You just put any number here, and that's it. You can put whatever you want to check, and you have debug vector, no, debug float 2, float 3, float 4, and other stuff. Okay, I guess. Have you ever tried to type help in the console? It opens the browser with a generated like report about like your console commands, and you can search through it. For example, I can search only for rendering commands or for sound commands, and you have pretty detailed explanations. The best you can get, actually. So try it. You don't know what the command does, like our.
Okay, we had a discussion. How many of you know that? Okay, cool. Yeah, continue.
That's good, but some of them know that. Also, like, yeah, it's just pretty useful. And here goes Mark.
Wait, careful. So tip number 60, you can use this node wall align texture to make a quick and easy triplanar mapping. That's very good for prototyping and testing things. So like you can see in this sphere, we have a triplanar mapping of our texture, and it's just using this node. So it's really quick, use it. Tip number 61, you can change the highlight intensity of selection. Why should I do this? You may wonder. Where is my mouse?
On this screen.
Okay, yeah, I saw it. So, for example, if I select the sky, the sky, who knows that I'm selecting it? You can see here in the border, but it's really, really subtle. So, if you go to editor's preferences, you can search for highlight. Should be here, selection highlight intensity. You see it moderately because it's like very ugly to see it. Where is my, okay. And now you can see that it changes a bit, so you know what you're selecting. And hand over to Yusuf.
Okay, so save engine states, and this is tip number 62. Basically, whenever you enter a stats. Anyway, whenever you enable a console command and you turn off the engine and you start it, it's just going to reset. So what if you want it to stay on all the time? All you have to do is just go to the editor preference and look for that setting. So edit, and then editor preference, and then here we go, and just enable that checkbox. Great. So, tip number 63. And then we have mesh decal, whatever. Okay. So this is a plane with a texture on it. I'm just going to slow down the camera a bit, so sorry for the shaking. And as you can see, I mean, it looks nice, but it doesn't actually blend with the normal of the object behind it. However, this one, it does, and even if I move actually the plane, you can always see it is blending, even though it is actually a different object. So if I move it, it's different. Anyway, so this is the material, and it's a simple setting you have to enable, which is here, deferred decal, and that's it. Great. So tip number 64. This is mostly useful for architecture, for example, and you can get accurate sun position, and it's calculated based on the location and time. And we have actually a lot of docs on how to do this, and it's really simple and very quick to set up. But we have in the scene actually one that is already set up, and we actually set it to the exact position of the sun for this event. So this is actually the coordinates for this venue, and this is the time we're actually giving the presentation, and this is where the sun is. Cool.
So you know.
Yeah. Okay. Also, I need to highlight the content example, and especially the mass hall. You can get it from the launcher. There's a lot of basically practical example of different functionalities. So if you're having a hard time with mass and you just want to know how to use certain functions in which cases, just go check out the content example. Okay, and finally we have the color blindness simulator. So to be clear, this will not fix your game for colorblind people, but we do realize a lot of people who play your games are colorblind, even some developers. And this is a way to simulate how they actually view your game so you can fix it. And it's under accessibility, and you can find it in the editor setting as well. So edit, okay, here we go. One second. Yeah. So you can actually change it here. And now to Andreas.
I'm happy he didn't. Okay, so some of the tricks. Oh, cool. Again, something. Oh, now I messed it up. So they are also telling us we have to speed up. So some of the tips we have here is from our interaction with customers. And one thing you have to see is Unreal Engine is made for a lot of people, also for newcomers. So you can actually, our blueprints you have tick by default, and that's maybe not what you want. So as an experienced developer, you maybe the first thing you want to do is disable this, so your blueprints don't tick, and then decide which of the blueprints should tick. So this is an important thing, and you always have to remember that the engine is made for a lot of different people, for a lot of different proposals, and that's the reason why this is in. You can find that in the general settings. I think you believe me. I try to speed up a bit. The other one I think is really important is you can enable the filter to show directives. That's something I want to show because when you go here in the filters, you can say under others there is redirectors. So if you move stuff around, then those redirectors are here, and you should fix them as soon as you can. And it's a pretty good idea to always show them because we didn't in our project, and something like 3 months later, we did. And then we had 2 or 3 days of just fixing those things. So this is important. And the last one, so we have this great engine. Stuart will do a talk about ray tracing here. So do all that stuff, and then you are 1 week before you ship, and someone decided, oh, let's do it 8-pixel retro style. This is what usually happens in development pretty often. So you can actually do this. We prepared that. So here is there's somewhere a post-process. So you can make a post-process material as a blendable. It should be here somewhere. Here it is. So it's pretty easy. I don't go too much in detail there. But so you change your game just like that, and then you have this pretty nice rand pixel look, and then you can ship. So we are done. We are through. That was 69. Thank you for having us. We are around here. We are happy to talk. You heard where we are from and which areas we cover. If you have any 1, 2, 3. If you have any trick you want to share with us, we are open for that. We have some more in our pockets, so come to us and ask. Or if you have serious questions, we are here around all the time.
And as you reflect on this, we're recording this, we'll probably put it online. I know this went fast, we'll put the slides online too, probably, so you can look back a little bit at what we've done, because this went on speed. But it shows you a little bit, I hope it's a good introduction to the next few days. And thank you.